This video is sponsored by Urban Street Narratives workshop. More about the workshop a little bit later. Last week that I published a video about making stories with several images, and my goal was to have 5 images, and during that video I was able to kind of get 4 images. And if you haven't seen that video yet, you can watch it there, because this video makes a lot more sense if you watch that first. So if you haven't seen it, go there and come back to this video after that. The point of this video is to continue with the photo walk, make another photo walk, make more images, and maybe replace some of the 4 images, or maybe all of them. My story is about wading and weaving. That's the working name for my story. It's an intimate story about people in the city. Hi, it's Peter here, and let's get right into the business. Before I go out and photograph, I will answer a few excellent comments that I got for my last week's video about the start of this small project. The first one comes from Mr. Occasional. My perspective of those 4 is 3, 1, 2, 4. Thanks for the idea. I like this idea to get myself out there. Cheers. So I'm glad that Mr. Occasional was inspired by my video and wanted to make his own story with images. Okay, he suggested this order, and below this one is my original idea. Yeah, this could work, what Mr. Occasional suggested. But what I was really thinking about, that it might start with a too wide of a perspective. And what is the connection? I really don't know at this point. I haven't really figured out what the story could be. If you can figure out, please let me know in the comments down below what the story would be if I started with this image. And as you see here, there are a lot of different ideas and a lot of different things that people see when they see these images. And I will address about the thing that I've always said about stories, that it is inside your head where the story is made. Not necessarily the image itself, but the image that triggers your imagination. And that's something that I will discuss after Matti Sulanto's comment, which was very interesting. But before that comment, I do have a comment from Gregory Laborde. That comment says, I wonder how much planning or just pre-visualization goes into taking the pictures in the first place. Where you see the possible combination as you took the photographs, or did you see the possibilities after you saw the set? The biggest thing I'm hoping to get out of the workshop is to learn to see again. At least I know I used to be able to. Well, yeah, there are actually 3 approaches when making stories with images. The first one, of course, is that you have a story in your mind and then you just go out and photograph, and maybe you pre-visualize the photographs beforehand. Then the second thing is, the kind of like the second part is what I'm doing on this video after I've answered some comments, is that I do already have a few images, and now I do have pre-visualized a certain situation that I might want. But that's also a little bit risky, because if I don't get them, I might be disappointed. But on the other hand, these projects usually last for a long time, not just five days like mine, or 5 photo walks like mine. It's could be harder to get in 5 days rather than a long-term project where I can find it for after many years. Or maybe I'll never find the things that I'm pre-visualizing. And I will talk about the pre-visualizing later in this video, what I think that could be. And then, of course, there is the possibility that you make a story of images that you already have. Maybe you have an idea and remember some of your images and start making something out of your images. Maybe it's a long-term project that hasn't been developed into a story yet. You might find that. Or then it's just your journey as a photographer. That could be a story that you can build up from your images. And then I'm, of course, saying that there could be some more images. Maybe you publish a zine or a book or something like that, some kind of an album of your photographs. That could be a story. It could be a story about your progress as a photographer. So there are a lot of different approaches, but I think they all are kind of connected to each other. And then the interesting comment from Matti Sulanto. Thanks for sharing. Well, Matti, you're welcome. In my opinion, you have a good starting point, but so far all your selected photos are too similar. I mean, they all are same sort of medium distance general shots, I think you need at least one photo with maybe even wider composition and at least one detail type tight shot. These would add some rhythm to the story, in my opinion, that is. And I think this was an excellent observation, because usually when you have a story, you need to have different distances or different formats, wide shot, medium shot, close-up shots, and all those different things that they teach you in movie school or cinema school, where they teach you making movies. And yeah, Matti has a point here. But this takes me to the one point that I haven't discussed on my channel yet, is about storytelling. And that is, what's the difference in storytelling if we're doing photojournalism, documentary photography, or if we're doing street photography? Well, photojournalism or journalistic photography focuses on documenting newsworthy events, the primary goal of informing the public. The setting is dictated by the news, and accuracy paramount, often required explanatory text and minimal artistic manipulation. The story must be direct, credible, and connected to current events, with little room for personal interpretation or creative process. Yeah, this is something I wrote, and that's why I'm kind of reading it. And then documentary photography. Documentary photography aims to inform or raise awareness about particular subject or issue, usually over a series of images that form a coherent narrative. There's the narrative, that's important in documentary. It requires more context and commentary, often with captions or introductions, to communicate the photographer's intention and to ensure factual accuracy. While creative decisions are still present, subjectively intentionally limited to upload objectivity and credibility. Yeah, it's a little bit different from photojournalism. When you're doing documentary photography, there is similarities, but it's a little bit different. And sometimes they are the same photographers that do that. But what about street photography? Is the story or the thing a little bit different? Street photography captures candid, spontaneous moment in public spaces, often presenting everyday life with a strong personal or artistic interpretation. And here we have the biggest difference so far. Everyday life with a strong personal or artistic interpretation. That was not that much in documentary and in journalistic approach. And let's continue about street photography. The story is usually open-ended, inviting viewers to draw their own meanings without explicit context or narrative guidance. And this is really important. In street photography, as photographers, we're not telling you what the story is, but you make the story in your own head. You use your imagination and build up the story. And I think that's the beauty of street photography, because we're not telling what to think. Creative use of composition, light, and timing is common, and text or captions are typically minimized to avoid influencing interpretation. Yes, usually text is not part of street photography or written text, because of the idea that it's you that's making the story. So what does this mean and correlate to Matti's comment? Well, it's about the wide angle and the tight shots. Usually if we are making a journalistic or document of something, it's usually a place, a thing, or happening, or some festival, or some problem in the world. And you need that wide shot to establish where you are, the settings, the place, and all the surroundings. And also the tight shots to give some closer look in certain things. So there is more variety. But what about street photography? It could be the same if it's a kind of like a narrative of some place. But if we have a narrative about feelings, emotions, and something that's not related into a certain place, then I don't think we need that wide shot, because it's not we don't need to establish the shot or the place. What we need to establish is the feeling, the emotion that we're trying to tell about. And I think that's why, for example, on my particular narrative, I don't think I need any more wider shots, but I do need tighter shots. That's where Matti is correct, because when you're showing emotions and all that, you need to be closer. You kind of like, it's more intimate when you can catch a close-up of that moment, and that's not going to be easy. That's why I haven't really done that yet on that. That's kind of like my goal, maybe the work that I'm making today after I've finished this part of the video. And here is the difference. Matti comes from a journalistic and documentary background, and I've never really done that. I've always, when I photograph for myself, been a street photography or street photographer state of mind. And this gets me to our workshop, Urban Street Narratives. This is the genuine thing about our workshop, that there are 3 teachers. We all have a little bit different background. We all have a little bit different life, well, quite a bit of different because we lived in different parts of the world. There's a big difference in our worlds and what we've done as photographers too. So that gives you a unique perspective to 3 different approaches to your work, where you're making a similar project that I'm making right now. If you want to learn more about this workshop happening in Kuala Lumpur next spring, it starts on Monday, March 30th and ends on Friday, April 3rd. And on that period, you will make a similar project about something. Of course, that's your call, what you want to photograph, and learn storytelling on the way. And if you are interested, and I'm sure you are, please click the link down below and sign up. It's going to be a great week with me, Matti, and Robin. But let's continue with this video, and now I'm heading out to Helsinki downtown to continue my photography project. And let's see what I come up with.
I haven't been able to make so many photo walks as I have wished because I have a very bad flu during this week, so I've been resting quite a bit and haven't been able to photograph that much. But today I was able to go out. And here are the 15 photographs that I got from this photo walk today. These 5 are for some other project that I can use, or these images I can use in some other projects. And then I have these 10 that could be potentially used with this project. This image that I have here could be something for this project, but it doesn't really quite feel right because of the expression she has. There is no feeling of waiting, or it's more about a glance towards, and it's too far away. It doesn't tell much, in my opinion. There isn't enough information for it to be, like, for example, a wide shot, which Matti Sulanto suggested, and well, you'll see in the video, so know what I answered to him. But this image is quite okay, and it can go with this image that I took last year from Strasbourg. And this is always important when you're making images, not during a let's say like a workshop week that we have in Kuala Lumpur, but in general when you go out and photograph, always have some images that you have in your archives in your mind, so that you might get a pair if you are making something out of them. Like I'm doing, zines and books and stuff. And that's why I think this image is something that I will keep, because it goes well with this image. There is some differences, but there is the same vibe about, looking something. And there is something about that they are kind of looking that, what was it? Is there something sinister happening outside the frame? That's why I think these 2 images go well together. Here are again these 10 that could fit this project. I could start with this image because I think this image fits well the idea that I have. The main thing, of course, is the person in the front looking towards the right, and the crop is tight because I wanted to do it a little bit unconventional. That it's not that you usually, when you're making a crop, you should leave some room for the view, so that there's more room in front of the face and less in the back. But I wanted to do the opposite, and also I could fit this guy into the image. The only slight thing that I don't like is the position, or not the position, but the way, or the moment that she's walking. To see the legs, they aren't the way I usually want them to be. But on the other hand, she's walking really slow, looking at her phone. It's something that we sometimes walk a little bit slower, and it's not a brisk walk in the sense, and that's why I think, it's probably okay. If I have this image, then I have several options for the second image. I can take the story a little bit different pathways. But I think I will use this image from the metro that I took when I was coming back. Even though this is a glance, and I said that this image doesn't really fit because it's not the expression, and this glance towards the right could lead to this image. And this image is good for this type of story because he's in his own world looking into something, and then you have these 2 in the background, which are not too distracting, but they take us to the next image. And then we have this image from my first set of images. And then the 5th one could be this one. And I think I have something, and I'm quite happy what I made on my photo walk, even though I did have a pretty bad flu, and it did affect me a little bit because it's really hard to concentrate when you have a runny nose and a little headache and sore throat and stuff like that. What do you think about this set? It's only kind of like 2 images from the first photo walk and with one image that wasn't really part of the set then, even though I like the image and it is a good or important part of the series. So when you have something, you might want to make images that can make the image that you want to use possible to be used. Very complicated way to say it, but you know what I mean. Make images so that you can use your best images. Make something of a bridge, and this bridge was a long bridge because I had the 3 first images are totally different from my first set of images. But this is how this all works, and now I still have a couple of more photo walks, and I might do this video in a couple of weeks, the third one. It will be the final one. I will make the last video when this thing is finalized. But please let me know in the comments down below, what do you think so far? And here you can watch the videos about the workshop, and if the last part is there or done, then you can watch that too. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.